Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Travel with That Guy. This is Will, and today we're going to get right into it. We're going to talk about three cruising changes that should become permanent. There have been a lot of things that have changed over the course of the last 18 months to 2 years with the pandemic. And I've done a lot of research on this, and I found three things that I believe should remain permanent once we get through everything and the smoke clears and this pandemic ends and basically turns into an endemic. The first thing, check-in times. In the past, there hasn't really been much of a, how would you say, requirement that you stay within the times you check in. It hasn't been a big deal. And now with COVID, a lot of cruise lines, Norwegian, from my experience especially, are making you request and sign up for check-in times to come in and do your COVID test, go through the process that way. I believe that even if we come to the point where the COVID tests are no longer required by the cruise lines, check-in times are going to stay required. They are going to want to keep people coming in blocks as opposed to one mass of people coming in. Now, of course, with the check-in time requirement, we have to look at staying within the check-in times. That goes back to what I saw when we were already on the ship and we looked off of the ship and saw a huge line of people waiting to get their COVID tests. And the only thing that we could come up with was that a lot of people just kind of showed up whenever they wanted to, which caused the line to get really, really big, really, really long, and kind of defeats the purpose of showing up when you want to. You just show up when you are supposed to show up when you selected the time to show up, because that's how that worked, was that we all selected the time we wanted to show up. It's not like Norwegian told us, you show up at 11, you show up at 11:30. We got to select when we showed up. So if you show up when you say you're going to show up, everything's going to go fine. If you don't, you're going to end up in this long line, and chances are you don't check in until you're originally supposed to anyway. So stay with where we're at. Check-in times are probably going to stay. The second thing that I'm going to look at is the new way that we're doing muster drills. So for those of you that never cruised before, essentially what would happen is you would all go to a specific location on the ship, and there'd be various amounts of locations on the ship, and they would do what's called a muster drill. So they would talk about what would happen in the event of emergency. Here's how to put on the life jacket. Here's where the lifeboats are, this, that, and the other, all the whole 9 yards with that. And you have to stand outside for upwards of maybe half an hour, 40 minutes, dependent on the cruise, dependent on how many people were in each station, depending on how many stations there were, how long it took people to get there. Currently, that's not happening because of the whole social distancing aspect. At least with Norwegian, I can't speak for other cruise lines, but at least with Norwegian, at the 21-day mark, when we went to select what time we wanted to go and check in at the terminal and have our COVID test, they also sent us the video to watch on the muster drill and said, okay, in an emergency, you're going to call 911 on the phones, and here's the life jacket thing, and this, that, and the other. Other cruise lines may do something similar. Other cruise lines may have you do it in your stateroom. Other cruise lines may have you do it the same way. You watch it on your phone or on your computer before you show up. And then after you check in, and you can, after you do lunch or whatever, you have pretty much until it's time to depart to actually go to where your muster drill station would be, as it says on your key card, and have them scan your key card so that they know that, hey, you know where you're supposed to go in the event of an emergency. That's it. It wasn't difficult at all. Now, I think it took us like 30 seconds once we got there to scan the key card, and we were done with it. I think that's going to stay. I think that is a much better use of our time. I think that's better for the crew on the ship, so they're not worried about, okay, at 3:30 we have to stop everything and do this muster drill, or at 4 we have to stop everything and do this muster drill. We will assign 1 or 2 crew members to each muster station, and maybe we can rotate them around, different crew members at different times, and all you have to do is scan everybody's card to let us know that, yes, they know where their muster drill station is. That was so much simpler. And I'm telling you right now, I did not miss having to stand around with maybe 100, 150 other people going through a safety drill. That was a much better use of time. And I would not be surprised to see that remain once the pandemic ends. Before we get to the last one, go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with everything that we talk about here on Travel with That Guy. And the last one I want to talk about is technology. In this case, using of the apps on board. Now, a lot of cruise lines already had apps before the pandemic started. I know Norwegian did, Princess did, I believe Carnival did as well. Disney probably did. But now it's becoming more and more in use. In the past, I know with Norwegian before the pandemic, it was kind of like, okay, you can like take notes of of what you're planning on doing. You can use it to text other members of your own party through the app. Now they've also thrown in the Freestyle Daily with Norwegian is on there. I know their cruise lines are doing something similar. Norwegian at least still passed out the actual physical Freestyle Daily every morning or every night before in the staterooms. I don't know what other cruise lines are doing with that. Some other cruise lines may have just gotten rid of it altogether. I think we're going to see technology even ramp up even farther, to the point where I would not be surprised if any cruise line was actually physically handing out a daily schedule in the near future. Not to mention that it's, they print all this paper out, and then what happens to the vast majority of it? It gets thrown away. Versus it's on our phone, not a big deal. If people really want to see it outside of the cruise line, you can screenshot it, send it to people that way as a picture. I know Facebook groups and are big on wanting to know, hey, what's the Freestyle Daily on this Norwegian cruise, or what's the daily schedule for this cruise? And people usually take pictures of the daily schedule and send that out. No different than taking a screenshot of what was on the app and then putting that in your Facebook group or in the boards on Cruise Critic or anything like that. So I definitely see the technology is going to stay. It's going to remain this way. At really no loss to anybody. I know there's going to be some people that say, no, I don't want to keep my head buried in my phone for my entire cruise. And you really don't have to. It's really just a matter of here's the schedule, here's what's going on. And maybe to combat that, some of the TV screens that cruise lines have around, especially Norwegian, they have a lot of monitors around the ship. Maybe some of those can be dedicated to the daily schedule so that you don't have to necessarily keep your face buried in your phone. You're walking by and say, hey, what's happening at 3:00? I could look at the TV screen and the TV screen will go, yep, okay, this is what's happening at 3:00. And you go, okay, great. I can go do that. Or, I'm going to go pass and go swimming or whatever. So that's it. Those are my top 3 things that I believe are going to stay around once the pandemic ends as it comes to cruising. What are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below. I'll reply to them as I see them come through. Maybe you are thinking of something that will remain that I haven't thought of. If we get enough of those, I'll do another video on that. Again, be on the lookout for the video of the 3 things that I think are going to go back to the way they were once the pandemic ends. As always, like the video, leave a comment down below, and subscribe to the video, and we will see you next time.